Okay, we're all good.
Ready?
Yep.
Hi guys, Don Paterson here from Trans-Canada College. What we're going to show you today is how to properly complete a Class 3 pre-trip. Just the tractor, no trailer for Class 3 drivers. The first thing we're going to do before we ever start, we're going to put down our wheel chocks. I cheated a little bit, already had the door open. We're going to put our wheel chocks down, and that way throughout this process we know the vehicle is going to be secure, because we're going to be putting ourselves in some spots in front of tires, behind tires, that if that vehicle ever moved, we'd be in danger. So this is just a little additional security for us. Now if you want to follow me, we're going to come out to the front of the truck, and we're going to start with a visual inspection of the front of the truck. You want to consider this as if you just came to work on a Monday morning, the truck's been sitting all weekend, and you haven't been near it. So the first thing you're going to do as you walk up, top to bottom, make sure there's no signs of visible damage. The top of the cab is good, the mirrors are in place, don't appear like anybody's hit them or done any damage over the weekend. The visor over the windshield is good, and the lenses on all our lights are intact. We're going to come down, our grille visually looks good, our headlight lenses and fog light lenses all look to be intact, no signs of any damage. Same with our bumper, no signs of any damage. Our license plate from here looks to be properly attached, and underneath the vehicle there's no signs of any leaks, no fluid puddles, whether it be oil, power steering fluid, coolant, anything of that nature. So now we're going to walk a little closer to the truck. We're going to make sure that the truck is sitting level. If it's leaning to one side or another, it could be a sign of suspension damage, a broken spring, or it could be a sign of a flat tire. You know, could be a couple of different things. If it's sitting uneven, then we know we have to take a closer look and figure out why. As we get here closer, and now I can see the sticker on my license plate, I want to make sure that it's still valid. And as I mentioned from back further, make sure that the plate is securely mounted. So my sticker's good, my plate's securely mounted. Now I'm getting a closer look at my headlight lenses to verify that there is no damage. I'm going to grab my grille to make sure it's securely mounted, and I'm going to grab my fender mirrors to make sure they're good. Once I've done this quick visual inspection of the front of the truck, I'm going to pop the hood and we're going to take a look underneath. Release one latch, I'm going to go around the other side, release the other. Then I'm going to come to the front. If you are shorter or smaller statured, you may have to lift that hood from the side, but if at all possible, the safest way to do it is from the front. Most trucks have a slot in the bumper for your foot. If they don't have it, put your leg in against the bumper, lock your knee, and pull sideways. But if that slot is there, use your body weight to start that hood raising. As it comes up, get your hand into the middle of the hood, bring it up under control. That hood has straps to prevent it from coming all the way over, but if they happen to have been broken and you didn't know it, that hood is a lot of weight to come down and hit you in the side of the face. We're going to come around to the driver's side of the engine. Now that my hood is open, I'm going to get a rag. I'm going to carry this with me throughout the whole pre-trip, because there's a couple different instances where I'm going to need it. One of the things that could stop your day dead in the tracks is an expired inspection sticker. So as soon as you come to this position, look up at your windshield. Verify that your inspection sticker is good. While you're here, you now get a closer look at your windshield. You can see from out further that it looked okay. Now you can confirm that your windshield is good. Check the tension in your wiper arm, and a visual check to make sure the wiper blade is in good shape. Our drip tray below our windshield, just preventing water from running down over top of the engine when it's pouring rain. Make sure it's securely mounted. And then we're going to come to the top of the engine itself. You want to make this as systematic as possible. Start at the top and go back and forth, working your way to the bottom. So in this case, our air box or air filter is securely mounted. I'm going to go back, like I said, back and forth. So the next thing I'm looking at is my wiring harness and my injector lines. Make sure there's no signs of wear, breakage, anything chafed, cracked, or leaking. My coolant tank. Make sure it is securely mounted and make sure that my coolant level is at an adequate point. I'm going to come down a little bit. I've got a rad support, and then I'm checking rubber hoses. I have a variety of them to check. Make sure they're all in good shape. Rubber hoses are good. Then I'm going to my clamps. They're all right here in the same general area. So rubber hoses and clamps. Making sure they're all good. My oil fill cap is on tight. My oil filter, there's no sign of damage in the cap, and there's no sign of leaks down the side of the housing. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my fuel filter back here. No signs of any leaks, no signs of any damage. Moving back against the firewall, we have a bundle of air lines here. Make sure they're securely strapped together so they're not chafing and wearing each other out. I've got my steering shaft. I'm going to rotate it and wiggle it back and forth. Make sure there's no signs of excessive play in the shaft itself or in the U-joints on either end. From my steering shaft, one of the most important things I'm going to look at all day. I'm going to check my engine oil. Pull the dipstick out, wipe it off, put it back in. I'm checking my oil level. I'm looking for metal shavings. No burnt smell, no sign of any discoloration in the oil that would tell me there's fuel or coolant or anything of that nature making its way into the base. Once the dipstick is back in and secure, I'm looking at my fuel lines, my power steering reservoir, make sure everything is tight and my level is good. My fuel water separator, it's secure, everything's clean, no sign of leaks. I'm going to move up front. I have my hood shock, my headlight wiring, and my hood strap. Once I've confirmed that all of those are in good shape, I have my air dryer securely mounted. When I drain my tanks at the end of every day, if there's moisture in my tanks, then I know there's something not functioning quite right with my air dryer. But for now, all I'm doing is making sure the lines and wiring going to and from are in good shape and that the air dryer is secure. I'm looking at my frame rail. It's in good shape, no sign of any illegal holes drilled, no illegal welds, and that the frame appears to be straight. I'm looking at my steering box. No sign of any leaks where it bolts together. My pitman arm and drag link are both tight and secured with a castle nut and a cotter pin. In behind my pitman arm and drag link, I have my leaf spring. Looking for any cracks in the leaf spring, any signs of damage. Reaching down, checking my U-bolts, making sure they're tight. While I'm leaning down, I'm looking in at the side of my oil pan, making sure my oil pan is in good shape, no signs of visible damage, no signs of leaks. Then I have my shock, once again securely mounted, no sign of any leaks. Those shocks have oil in them. If they are running fluid down the side of the shock, it's got to be replaced. My air line that runs to my front brake chamber. Front brake chambers are a single chamber, so there's no spring brake up front. So my brake chamber is securely mounted, my air line and ABS wire are in good shape. Then I'm going to pull on the slack adjuster. Make sure there's no excessive play in that slack adjuster. Once I've done that to verify the adjustment of my brakes, I'm looking at the inside of my steer tire, looking for cracks, bulges, abrasions, anything to indicate that that tire has been damaged. Tire looks good. I'm looking at the inside of the rim. The inside of the rim looks good. My dust shield or backing plate is in place, and no sign of any oil leaks inside the rim. If there's oil inside the rim, that's a sign of a wheel seal blown. You have to check your fluid level in your hub and get that truck to a shop and get that looked at. Once I've checked the inside of the tire, I'm coming out to the top of the tire. A steer tire must have a tread depth of a minimum of 4/32 of an inch, no less. Tread wear should be even across the entire tire. That 4/32 is not just on a single point. If any point on that tire gets below 4/32, that tire is no longer serviceable for a steer tire. So my tread wear is even and my tread depth is good. The outside of my tire run my hand around, feeling for any cracks, bulges, abrasions, anything of that nature. The outside of my tire is in good shape. I have an aluminum rim with a metal cap, metal valve stem, metal cap. There's no sign of any damage to the rim. I'm looking for spider cracks, spider webbing cracks. I'm looking for more signs of oil, because sometimes when a wheel seal blows, it's going to come on the outside of the rim instead of the inside. So I'm looking for signs of oil. I'm also looking signs for rust streaks coming up from each wheel nut. A rust streak on an aluminum wheel is a sign of a loose fastener. I'm not seeing any cracks, any webbing, no rust streaks. I'm going to physically reach down and grab each wheel nut for tightness, make sure they're all good. Then I'm going to crouch down, looking for leaks around my hub cover, popping my cap out, looking for signs of water, indicating that water may be leaking in there. I'll look for a cloudy, milky type substance, looking at my oil level itself to make sure that my oil level is adequate. Most of these hub covers have a sight glass on the side. Some of them are harder to see through than others. So if you can't see through your cover, just pop the cap out. Pop your cap back in, give it a little twist just to make sure it's seated properly. And you've basically completed the driver's side of your engine compartment. If you want to follow me around, we'll do the passenger side. Quick visual of our hood now that the hood is up. We looked at it when we opened our hood, but it never hurts to take a second glance. When we get to our passenger side of our engine compartment, once again, we're going to start at the top and work our way down. We're verifying that our windshield is good, that there is tension in our wiper arm, and that the wiper itself is in good shape. Now I'm going to check this drip tray again, my cab air filter box, making sure it's securely mounted and not full of debris, especially in the fall of the year when there's leaves coming off the trees and things like that. That in-cab air filter will get leaves piled up in front of it, restricting the airflow into the cab. Once we've checked that, we're going to check our air box from this side, make sure everything is tight. Then once again, we're looking at rubber hoses. We have a number of them here, all in the same general area. So we're checking rubber hoses, they're all good. Now we're going to check clamps. Once again, there's quite a bunch of them here, and they're all in the same general vicinity. So rubber hoses and clamps are all good. While I'm looking in this area, I'm looking in. I can see my radiator, my fan, and my belts better from the passenger side than I can the driver's side. So I'm looking at my fan, making sure that the blades are all there and there's no signs of any cracks in the fan. I'm looking at my belt, making sure there's no signs of wear or cracking. If that belt is not running true, the edges will fray. So I'm looking to make sure that belt is nice and clean, no signs of damage. Looking at my air conditioning system, I just checked all the rubber hoses. I want to make sure my pump is properly mounted. Below it, I have my alternator, make sure it's properly mounted. I'm going to come back from there, my turbo. Looking for soot around your turbo is an incredibly important thing to remember. If that turbo is turning black from soot, you have an exhaust leak. Anytime you have an exhaust leak, you are running the risk of putting carbon monoxide into your cab. So if that is turning black, you want to have that addressed right away. Once we've checked our turbo, we're going to drop down to the frame. We're looking at the frame rail itself. Everything looks good. Once again, no sign of illegal drilling, holes drilled, no sign of illegal welds. Our shock is mounted securely. We're going to come down to our spring and U-bolts again. And once again, while I'm here, I'm looking at the side of my oil pan to make sure it's in good shape, no sign of visible damage, no sign of leaks. Come forward to the front end of my frame. I have all my wiring for my headlights, fog lights, my hood shock. I reach up and get my hood strap. I can grab my bumper, and then I'm going to move my way back here. Once again, brake line or air line going to my single brake chamber. The chamber itself is in good shape, secure, no excessive play in the brakes. Inside of the tire looks good. The inside of the rim not showing any signs of visible damage, no signs of oil. Dust cover or backing plate is in place and securely mounted. Move up here, our windshield wash. We can see windshield washer fluid in the fill neck, so we know that our tank is at an appropriate level. Tread depth, as I said on the other side, minimum 4/32 of an inch, and even. Step out, we're looking at the outside of the tire. Run your hand around, no signs of any damage, cracks, abrasions, bulges. The rim, same as on the other side, cracks, oil, any signs of rust streaks. Check each of the wheel nuts. They're all tight. We're going to come down looking for any signs of leaks around the hub cover. Pop that cover out. Verify our oil level. Put the cap back on. We basically completed the passenger side of our engine compartment. Once you're done under your hood, get it closed. You don't want to leave it up, because if you go around the truck and there's a great big gust of wind, it's going to could potentially drop your hood. And like I said, these hoods are heavy. They come crashing down, it's going to do damage. Never let go of your hood. Bring it down under control the whole way until it settles. We're going to come back to the passenger side and latch it. And now we'll go latch our driver's side and we'll carry on from there. Now, I like breaking the truck down into segments. We basically just inspected from here forward. So now we're going to inspect from here to the back of the door. Break it down into sections so you can keep yourself in a routine and not forget anything. So first thing in this section, we're not checking the lights because they're not turned on. We're just checking to make sure our lenses are intact. So in this case, our side marker light is in good shape. Our mirror is securely mounted. Ideally, this window should have been up so I could take a closer look at it, but I can promise you this window is in good shape. No signs of visible damage to the side of the cab. My steps are secure. I'm going to open up this compartment. I have my battery box and my DEF tank. When I open this up, or even when I get close to the truck, if I get a rotten egg smell or anything really acidic, I'm not going to open this. I'm going to call a mechanic and I'm going to let them do it. I don't get a rotten egg smell, so now I'm going to pop this open. I'm going to get down. And I'm going to open this up and take a look at my batteries. What I'm looking for is that the cables are all tight and secure, that the batteries themselves are securely mounted, and there's no sign of corrosion on any of my cables. If a battery cable is corroding, the ends will start turning green, the posts will start turning green. If you see that, get those connections cleaned. It doesn't mean anything has to be thrown off or thrown away. They just have to be cleaned up with a wire brush and re-secured. While I'm down here, my DEF tank, I'm going to pop that out, check the gasket, make sure it's good. Put the cap back on. I'm going to grab the tank just by the filler neck and give it a little shake to make sure it's secure. Close that back up. Put my sunglasses back on so I'm not squinting the whole time. And then I'm going to address the door itself. Bare hand to grab your door handle. The dirt and grease you get on your gloves, you don't need to bring it inside the truck with you. So I'm going to open up the door. First thing I'm going to do is my grab handle. You know, it's not going to be very long and I'm going to be climbing into this truck, and the last thing I want to do is go to pull myself up into the truck and end up on my back on the ground. So my grab handle's secure. My door seals, inside and outside, are all in good shape. As I said with the turbo, carbon monoxide. If your door seals are bad and you develop an exhaust leak, you increase the risk of carbon monoxide getting inside your cab. That is not something you ever want to happen. And if any of you are working for a company, or go to work for a company, and you're doing long haul and sleeping in the truck, invest in a carbon monoxide detector if the company doesn't provide one for you. It could potentially save your life. While my door's still open, I'm just going to lift up on my door, make sure my door pins or my hinges are in good shape, that the door's not flopping loose. I'm going to pop that door open again. We're Get back there again in just a second. And I'm going to make sure that my door latches securely when I close it. So, I've now done this section. Now I'm going to work my way back. I'm going to start by taking a couple steps back, quick visual check top to bottom. Fairing, side of the cab, side of the bunk, my bunk extender, my light, my work light, everything is where it should be, no visible signs of damage. Then I'm coming back in to my fuel tank. With this particular truck, the way this is situated with the cap here and this opening in the fairing, I can see my front fuel tank strap. They're an aluminum tank with a steel strap. There's a rubber liner that has to be between those two, or that steel strap will chafe through that aluminum tank and cause a major fuel leak. So I'm looking to make sure my strap is secure and that rubber liner is in place. Then I'm going to open my fuel cap. Do not be looking directly at that fuel cap when you open it. Occasionally vents don't work properly and these tanks will pressurize. You go to take that cap off, it can blow fuel mist back into your face. Once the cap is loose, I'm looking again, same as I did with the DEF tank, just to ensure that the gasket around the cap is in place and in good condition, and also that my safety chain is there so I'm not losing a fuel cap. Put it back on, grab my rag again, give my fairing a shake, giving my bunk extender a shake. The side of my cab is good. Now, I opened this door for a reason. There is certain safety supplies that you are required to have in every truck. They may not all be in this location. It's up to you as you go to a new truck to identify where these products are. First aid kit, must have. This bright red box, which is bolted to the floor so I can't pull it out, contains our safety triangles. So in the event of an emergency or a breakdown, if we're going to be on the side of the road for any more than 10 minutes, we're going to dig these out and put them out in the appropriate location depending on what type of road you're on. And that is your responsibility to know what those distances and locations are. Beside our triangles, we have our fire extinguisher. The two main things we're looking for on a fire extinguisher: the gauge, the needle has to be in the green showing charged, and the inspection tag has to be current within the last 12 months. So in this case, this one's good until September of 2021. It was inspected in September of 2020. And it doesn't hurt to mention, these extinguishers should be taken out and given a good vigorous shake once a week. It's a dry powder chemical, it packs down. If you let it compact and then the day comes you need it, all you're going to get is a blast of compression gas. You're not going to get the powder that's actually going to put the fire out. Fire extinguisher back away. And the last thing that you are required to have is a set of flags. 30 centimeters by 30 centimeter flags that could be used in conjunction with your safety triangles in the event of an emergency or a breakdown. Once we're done checking all our safety gear, we close that door, make sure it latches properly. Then we're going to move back to the next section of the truck. Now this is going to be a little harder for you to see, but I'm going to step in here between my truck and the front of my drives. When I was up front, I checked the front tank strap to make sure it was in place with the rubber band or rubber seal around it. Now I'm going to look in and I can see my rear tank strap to make sure that the strap looks good and that rubber is there. While I'm here, I'm giving a quick visual check of this side under the bunk to make sure the cross members are all good, or under the cab, depending on the type of vehicle you're driving. But to make sure the structure of the cab is good, my fuel tank strap is there, and I'm also locating my vent hose on the top of my fuel tank to make sure that it's in good shape and not obstructed. Because if it's obstructed, that tank can't take in air as the engine draws fuel out. Eventually that will cause a vacuum and your engine will no longer be able to pull fuel to it, and it's going to act like you ran out of fuel. You could have full tanks or almost full tanks. It's going to act like you're out of fuel. So I'm doing a visual checkup along the fuel tank. While I'm here again, any braces, any braces or anything I can get my hands on. This truck has a step here on the side of the frame. I need to check it to make sure it's secure. I have an air tank in under the frame right here. I'm making sure it's secure and that all the lines going to and from it are in good shape. The cab suspension is in good shape on this side. Everything is duplicated from one side to the other. I'm not checking both sides at once. I'm going to go all the way around the truck, so I'll verify those ones when I get to that side. I'm looking up underneath again. I'm looking at the frame rails, the cross members, and the drive line. I can't get up there and physically put my hands on every piece, but I want to visually ensure that everything looks to be in good shape. Everything looks good. What we do have right here that I can get my hands on is a torque rod for the bump. Checking it and making sure it's tight, not playing. In this case, I'm checking my deck plate, looking underneath my deck plate at the drive shaft as it extends back to here, looking at my universal joint, the rear end itself, make sure there's no sign of any leaks. While I'm here, I've got air lines and electrical running up inside the frame. I'm looking it all over, looking for any signs that some of it is broken loose, that it's rubbing, chafing, causing early wear. Once I've checked in there, I'm going to turn around, check my quarter fender. While I'm standing right here, I can see my spring, my U-bolts, and my shock. Now my shock, I could reach out there and grab it, but I'm going to get back a little further and it'll be an easier spot. I'm going to stick my toe underneath. I'm kicking that brake chamber. I'm listening for a sound of a broken spring rattling. Back here we have dual brake chambers, which means they have a spring brake or a park brake in them. If those springs break, you give them a little bump with your toe, you'll hear that broken spring rattling inside. You know you've got to go to the shop. Going to look down, looking for a 90-degree angle between my slack adjuster and my push rod. That verifies that my brakes are in proper adjustment with automatic slack adjusters with the park brake set. So I verify that 90-degree angle, and I'm going to do that at each position as I go around the drives. Once I've verified everything on the inside of the wheels, I'm looking at the inside of the tire, same as I did up front. Cuts, bulges, abrasions. I'm looking at the condition of the dust cover. I'm looking at the condition of the rim, no signs of any oil, no signs of any breakage. I'm going to come out and I'm looking at my drive tires. Drive tires are allowed to be a minimum of 2/32 of an inch as opposed to the 4 up front. So my tread depth is good. My tread wear is even. I'm now looking between my rims. While I'm here, I can see my inside tire. I found my valve stem with a metal cap right here. No sign of obstructions between my rims or between my tires, and no signs of any damage to the rims. You step out, make sure I get a good look, as much of the inside between those wheels as I can see. Then once again, running my hand around, I'm looking for those signs of rust streaks, cracking of any sort of damage to the rim, physically checking each of the wheel nuts, confirming I have a metal valve stem and a metal cap. And one thing that I neglected to do on the steer tires, and that's my bad, but you want to make sure you do, every tire as you go around this truck, give it a kick, or get a hammer, a tire thumper, whatever you want to call it, check for pressure. If something seems off, get a tire gauge and check for specific pressure. Make sure they're consistent. Especially with these recap tires that most of us run on our drives, low tire pressure is going to lead to tire failure, and it's going to lead to it quickly. So now I'm stepping in here. Like I said, that shock that I could reach, but it was a stretch. Now I'm in nice and close. I'm checking that shock. I'm checking the airbag on the front axle. Now, as a Class 3 driver, the fifth wheel equipment is not a concern, but you have to ensure that anything that is secured to the frame of your vehicle is secure. So even though the function of the fifth wheel is not your concern, this is no different than having a box bolted to the back of your truck. The security of it is there. So you want to make sure that this is securely mounted to the frame. I'm going to now switch gears and go to my back axle. I'm kicking that brake chamber the same as I did the front one. I'm checking this spring, these U-bolts. Now, I can't really lean in here and see that slack adjuster, or I'm going to be covered in grease. I'm going to wait until I'm around the back, and I'm going to check that. All my mounting hardware for my spring hangers is good. The inside of my tire is good. This shock I can easily reach from here. It's tight and no sign of leaks. As I said, spring, U-bolts, my dust cover, my brake drum, my rim, everything's in good condition. My tread depth once again is good. Nothing between my tires. I once again have located my inner valve stem and metal cap. I'm going to come out, check in between, then I'm going to check around. Check all those wheel nuts, check my rim, no signs of cracks, no signs of damage, no signs of rust streaks. I'm going to move to the back of the truck. First thing I want to check, and it doesn't matter whether it's a tractor or a regular straight truck, oil truck, anything, make sure your mud flaps are secure on the back, that they are wide enough for both rear tires. If they stop short, they don't cover that outside tire, that's not adequate. They've got to be wide enough to cover both back tires. Now I'm stepping in between. I'm looking at my frame rails, making sure they're straight, no signs of twists, no signs of damage. I'm going to look at the back of my cab. I have reflectors, and the back of the cab is not showing any visible signs of damage. I'm going to come down to the back of the truck. 2 red reflectors, 1 white light, 2 red lights, a license plate light, and a license plate that matches the front one is securely mounted with a valid sticker. Now I'm going to step in here. I've got an airbag to check. I checked for leaks on the front rear end. Now I'm going to look for leaks on the back rear end, checking the torque rod, looking at the drive shaft. Now I can look down in at the slack adjuster on both sides of the rear axle, looking for that 90-degree angle between the slack adjuster and the push rod to signify good adjustment. Check the airbag on this side, looking at all my air lines and electrical lines that run around the inside of the frame, make sure nothing's worn, broke loose, chafing, potentially going to cause any problems. Once again, check the mud flaps as I go to this side. Give that airbag another tap. I can check this shock while I'm standing here. I can see this side of the tire. I'm not going to complete the check until I go in between, but I'm just looking at my tires, looking in between. Oh wait, there's my valve stem. So now I know my inside tire, I've got a valve stem with a metal cap. My tread depth on both of these tires is good. Come in, kick my brake chamber again, check my spring, check my U-bolts, double check my shock, my dust cover, my brake drum, my rim, and the inside of my tire are all in good shape. Once again, I'm looking at all the mounting hardware that's anything that's attached to my frame, making sure it's all in good shape, that nothing that's attached to my frame is going to come loose. I'm finishing my visual check for obstruction between my tires, and then I'm going to come back out, give all my tires a kick. I'm going to run my hand around again. Once again, I know it may seem tedious. Every wheel nut must be physically checked. If you were to do this in your bare hands, I should be able to come along and dust those wheel nuts for fingerprints and find your fingerprints on every wheel nut. I'm checking the rim once again, no signs of damage, no signs of rust streaks, cracks, and once again we have a valve stem and metal cap. Back in between, I have another airbag, another shock. I now have a different angle to this rear end U-joint, so I'm kind of looking this way. I know I've already looked at it once, but it never hurts to look at it from more than one angle. Sometimes you'll see something you missed the first time around. Checking the inside of the tire, slack adjuster, or dust cover, brake drum, rim, tread depth, once again, minimum 2/32 of an inch. Looking between my tires. Oh, there's my valve stem with metal cap in the middle. So now I've found it on my inside tire. No obstructions. Everything's in good shape. Run my hand around the tire. Count to 10 so you don't forget where you started. And my valve stem with metal cap is on the top in this case. Sometimes you got to get down on your knees. Sometimes you got to get down nice and low. Yes, you're going to get dirty. Welcome to the world of trucking. Quarter fender is tight. I'm doing another visual check of my spring, my U-bolts, my last brake chamber. Give it a kick. No sign of any rattles. Make sure this side of my deck plate is secure. My cross members. Like I said, you've already looked at this from the other side. Now look at it from this side. Double checking never hurts. Everything looks good. I'm going to turn around. Once again, I have bunk airbag, bunk shock. I'm going to take my glasses off. Look up underneath. Now I'm looking at my fuel tank. I see my vent hose. I see my tank strap and that the rubber is in place underneath it. All my mounting brackets for my fairing that are here are secure. Looking up and down, I have my bunk extender mounts. No signs of damage. And I can step back out. Doing a visual check. My light looks good. The wires look good. My fairing is all tight and secure. The side of my cab. This side I get two windows. On the other side I have a vent and a window. So I'm looking at the seals around the window to make sure they all look tight and secure, that there's going to be no leaks, whether it be water or air or, once again, carbon monoxide. So the glass is all there, the seals all look good. I'm coming back to this fuel tank position, checking my strap, making sure it's all good. I'm going to pop this cap open again. Once again, don't look straight at it. Make sure there's no pressure on the tank. Take the cap off. Visually inspect that gasket. Make sure the safety chain's in place. Put the cap back on. Now, depending on the truck, all of our safety gear was on that side. In this case, we have supplies. Windshield wash, oil, grease gun. There's nothing critical under there to the pre-trip, but it never hurts to check your door, make sure it latches securely, and everything is safe. Well, you have your door open. You're going to check your grab handles, make sure they are secure. I'm stepping up on my steps. I got to step up to check my grab handle, give myself a little shake, make sure my steps are secure. Once again, my inner door seal all the way around, and my outer door seal all the way around appears to be in good shape. Grab my door, lift up on my hinges, push it closed, and make sure it latches securely. My glass is good, my mirror is secure, the glass in my mirror is good. One more step, my side marker light is in good shape. All the lights will actually be checked on your road test by your examiner, or if it's you working alone, after you've done your main pre-trip, you'll turn on all your lights and you'll get out and make sure they all work. But for now, it's just a visual check that that light is intact. And you have just completed your Class 3 vehicle